Hello, English learners. Welcome to another great lesson with EnglishPod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
So, Erica, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. And I think we've got a good lesson today, a really helpful lesson.
What are we talking about today?
We have an elementary lesson about making an appointment.
All right, making an appointment. Yeah, that's really helpful. I guess you have to make appointments for the doctor or
At work, maybe. Or with your
personal.
friends.
Yeah.
So this is language that you can use every day to make appointments.
Great. Well, so why don't we take a look at our vocabulary preview?
Vocabulary preview.
We only have one word today, which you need to know to understand this dialogue, and it is financial advisor.
Financial advisor.
Financial advisor.
So, what is a financial advisor?
A financial advisor is a person who gives suggestions or recommendations about investing money. Someone who wants you to put money in the stock market.
Okay, great. I guess we're ready now to listen to our dialogue for the first time. And as always, it's going to be at a normal speed, but you don't have to worry about it because
We'll come back and teach you all
Vocabulary
the
preview.
important words.
Hello, Fairbrook Consulting. How may I help you?
Yes, this is Julianne Horton, and I'm calling to arrange an appointment with Miss McNeely.
Certainly. What day were you thinking of?
How's Thursday? Does she have any time available then?
Let me double check. Unfortunately, she's booked solid on Thursday. How does next Monday work for you?
Actually, I've got something scheduled on Monday. Can she do Tuesday?
Sure, Tuesday's perfect. May I ask where you're calling from?
Sure, Merton Financial Advisors.
Oh. Actually, Tuesday's no good. Sorry about that.
Well, I guess Ms. McNeely does not want to speak to any financial advisors.
yeah, I guess she doesn't really want to invest in the stock market, huh?
Or maybe she just gets too many phone calls from them.
Yeah. If you have money, I guess you'll get phone calls from people like that.
I guess we don't have that problem, hey?
No, we don't. Okay, let's start with our language takeaway for today.
Language takeaway.
So 4 words today. The first one is available.
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 Meaning
That you are not busy.
that you're free.
You're free. You're not busy.
Exactly. Let's move to our next word. Double check.
Double check.
Double check.
Double check.
I think we've got some examples of this phrase.
Example 1.
Do you have the tickets?
I think so, but let me just double check.
Example 2.
I thought I sent that email already, but let me double check.
Okay, so double check basically means to check something twice.
Exactly, to check it again.
Check it again. Okay. Our third word for language takeaway today is scheduled.
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 Scheduled. So when you have something scheduled, it means that you have something
Planned.
planned, right?
Yeah, or booked at that time.
Booked at that time.
Yeah, we've got a lunch scheduled this afternoon, don't we?
Yes, we do.
All
a
right.
great lunch. I'm looking forward to it. And our last word for today is booked solid.
Booked solid.
Booked solid.
Booked. Booked solid.
So we have some great examples on how you can use this great phrase booked solid and you can understand what it means.
Example 1.
I can't get a hotel room. They're booked solid until after the new year.
Example 2.
I'm sorry, there are no seats available on these flights. We booked solid over the Christmas holidays.
Example 3.
Sorry, I can't meet with you today. I'm booked solid.
Okay, great. So booked solid basically is
You have no free time, no available time.
Right.
So you've got appointments scheduled all day.
All day. Great. So with this in mind, now we can listen to our dialogue a second time. This time it's going to be slow so we can
Understand a little bit better.
Hello? Fairbrook Consulting. How may I help you?
Yes, this is Julianne Horton, and I'm calling to arrange an appointment with Ms. McNeely.
Certainly. What date were you thinking of?
How's Thursday? Does she have any time available then?
Let me double check. No. Unfortunately, she's booked solid on Thursday. How does next Monday work for you?
Actually, I've got something scheduled on Monday. Can she do Tuesday?
Sure. Tuesday's perfect. May I ask where you're calling from?
Sure. Merton Financial Advisors.
Oh. Actually, Tuesday's no good. Sorry about that.
Okay, so now it's a little bit more clear, and with this, we can start with putting it together.
Putting it together.
There's some great examples in this dialogue of phrases you can use when you need to schedule an appointment. And we're going to look at those today. In the dialogue, we heard Julianne ask about making an appointment, and she said this.
I'm calling to arrange an appointment
paragraph of the
with Ms.
dialogue.
McNeely. I'm calling to arrange an appointment with Ms. McNeely.
So this is a great way to schedule an appointment, to ask for some time from somebody else.
Yeah, and we have some more examples of this phrase.
Example 1. Please book an appointment for next week.
Example 2.
Please schedule an appointment for next week.
Great. So after that, when you're scheduling an appointment, you need to suggest a day when maybe that person has time.
Yes, let's listen to what they said in the dialogue.
How's Thursday? Does she have any time available then? How's Thursday? Does she have any time available then?
You say, well, how's Thursday or how's Tuesday? And maybe that person doesn't have time that day, so they'll say something like this.
Can she do Tuesday? Can she do Tuesday?
Okay, Erica, so if I want to have a meeting with you, I would say, how's Monday sound? Or how's Monday?
Monday's no good. I'm
how's-
busy all day.
How's Tuesday?
Sorry, Tuesday's no good either.
What about Wednesday?
Okay, Wednesday works.
All right, great.
Wednesday's perfect.
Okay, it's great. So we have a meeting on Wednesday.
Okay, yeah, those are some great phrases, hey, for scheduling an appointment.
Yeah, they're really good. Okay, so now we can listen to our dialogue a third time and we're ready to understand everything that we've just talked about.
Hello? Fairbrook Consulting. How may I help you?
Yes, this is Julianne Horton, and I'm calling to arrange an appointment with Miss McNeely.
Certainly. What day were you thinking of?
How's Thursday? Does she have any time available then?
Let me double check. Unfortunately, she's booked solid on Thursday. How does next Monday work for you?
Actually, I've got something scheduled on Monday. Can she do Tuesday?
Sure, Tuesday's perfect. May I ask where you're calling from?
Sure, Merton Financial Advisors.
Oh. Actually, Tuesday's no good. Sorry about that.
The language in this dialogue is really useful, isn't it, Marco?
Yeah, it's from an everyday situation. You always have to make appointments at some point.
Yes, and like we said earlier, it's language you can use when you need to talk about work with your boss, maybe.
Right.
Or when you need to do daily things like go to the doctor. Or even when you're planning something with your friends.
Right.
Yeah, you can use this in all those situations.
In all situations.
Uh-huh.
Great. Well, we're out of time now, but I hope you enjoyed our lesson and found it useful. And if you have any questions or comments, please go to our website at englishpod.com, where we'll be there to answer everything.
Yes, we will. So thanks for listening, guys. And until next time,
Bye.
goodbye.
The second paragraph of the dialogue.
All right, so let's jump into something I think we all run into.
The second
and that
paragraph
is
of the
scheduling
dialogue.
appointments in English. You know, those times you got to book a service or you need to set up a meeting, but you want to sound confident and natural.
Yeah, sometimes that can be a bit tricky, especially when you're trying to navigate a new language.
Exactly. And so we're going to take a little page from this English language learning podcast. It's called EnglishPod. And they use this hilarious scenario of a financial advisor who's trying to set up a meeting, and it is full of useful phrases you can actually use in everyday situations.
I think it's really smart how they do that because it's so relatable. We've all had to make appointments, whether it's a haircut or the doctor or even just catching up with friends.
For sure. So let's break down some of the key vocabulary they highlight. One of the first words they emphasize is available. Such a simple word, but it's like the foundation of scheduling anything, right? You're basically asking, do you have any open time in your schedule?
And it's a word that you can use in a casual setting or a formal setting. You know, you could ask a friend, hey, are you available to grab coffee next week? Or in a professional context, you might inquire about someone's availability for a meeting.
Now, what's interesting is how they pair available with that phrase double check. Seems like a small thing, but it makes a big difference in how you're perceived, right?
Oh, absolutely. Saying something like, let me double check, implies that you're being very thorough and careful, and that projects a sense of professionalism and reliability. It shows you're taking the appointment seriously and you want to avoid mistakes.
Yeah, it's almost like saying, I value your time and I'm going to make sure everything's accurate.
Okay.
So let's say you've double checked and you found a time that works. That's where the word scheduled comes in.
Exactly. Scheduled means that the appointment is confirmed and it's on the calendar. It's a commitment. It's a time slot that's been set aside for that specific purpose.
And then, of course, you have the opposite scenario when somebody is completely booked. The podcast uses this phrase, booked solid, which I just love. It's so visually descriptive.
It really is. It's like you can picture the calendar just jammed packed with appointments, no room for anything else. It's just a more interesting way of saying I'm completely unavailable.
Right now, the EnglishPod episode uses a role play to really illustrate how these phrases work in a conversation. And remember, Julianne, she's the financial advisor who's trying to schedule this meeting with Ms. McNeely. So let's listen in as she calls Fairbrook Consulting. Just pretend I'm Julianne.
Fairbrook Consulting. How may I help you?
Hi, this is Julianne Horton. I'm calling to arrange an appointment with Ms. McNeely.
Of course, what day were you hoping to schedule this for?
Well, how's Thursday looking for her? Is she available at all then?
Let me just double check her schedule for Thursday. Unfortunately, looks like she's booked solid that day. Would Monday work for you at all?
Oh, let me see. Actually, I have something else scheduled for Monday. How about Tuesday? Can you do Tuesday?
Let me check Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday is open. And may I ask, where are you calling from?
Sure, I'm with Marin Financial Advisors.
Oh, I see. Well, actually, it seems Tuesday is no good after all. So sorry about that.
Wait a minute. Did you hear that it seemed like everything was going so well, and then suddenly Tuesday was no good the minute I mentioned financial advising?
Yeah, that's where things get kind of interesting when you say this little twist. It really highlights how context can totally change the direction of a conversation.
Yeah, it really does make you think, like, what changed in that interaction, right? Because up to that point, Julianne was doing all the right things. She was being so polite and clear.
I know, right? She asked about availability. She offered some alternative times. She even used that double check phrase just to show she's, on top of it. But then as soon as she said she's a financial advisor, it's like, boom, the door slammed shut.
Yeah, and that's kind of the hidden part of communication we don't always think about, right? It's not just the words themselves, but the whole context around them. Maybe Miss McNeely had a bad experience with a financial advisor in the past, or maybe she just doesn't want to talk about finances right now. Who knows? Yeah. It's like you think you've got the game figured out, and then all of a sudden the rules change.
Preview.
It just shows how important it is to be flexible. Communication is a two-way street.
Exactly. You can have perfect grammar, perfect pronunciation, but you also have to be sensitive to the other person, how they're reacting, and then be ready to change your approach. It's all about reading between the lines, picking up on those little cues.
So, yeah, learning the vocabulary and the phrases, that's super important. But being aware of the context and how that can affect the conversation, it's huge.
It is. Think of it this way. The vocabulary is like your toolbox, right? But understanding context is like having the blueprint. You need both to really build something.
That's a great analogy. So going back to that role play for a sec, there were a few other phrases that I thought were really helpful. Like when Julianne starts off by saying, I'm calling to arrange an appointment with Ms. McNeely.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic opening line. So clear. And you can use it in tons of situations. Instead of arrange an appointment, you could say, schedule a consultation or book a table or make a reservation. It's all about stating your purpose up front.
And it works in formal settings and informal settings.
Yeah.
Right? You could use that calling a doctor's office or even texting a friend to set up a lunch date.
For sure. It just sets the tone for the conversation so the other person knows right away what you're calling about. And then once you've done that, you can move on to suggesting some specific times like Julianne did with that. How's Thursday looking for her?
I love how she phrased that. It's just so gentle and open-ended. It lets the other person kind of lead the way.
And if that day doesn't work, you can just smoothly transition to another option like Julianne did with, how about Tuesday? Can she do Tuesday?
So casual and natural. You're checking availability without sounding demanding or pushy at all.
Right. And then on the flip side, if somebody suggests a time that doesn't work for you, you can politely decline, like, I'm afraid I'm booked on Tuesday, or I have another commitment that day.
Those are great examples. It's all about striking that balance, right?
Yeah.
You want to be assertive, but you also want to be respectful of the other person's time.
Totally. And even if things don't go exactly the way you planned, like what happened with Julianne, it's important to stay positive and professional, keep your cool.
Speaking of things not going as planned, I feel like there's a really good lesson in Miss McNeely suddenly changing her mind. It's like a warning about how powerful perceptions can be and how quickly things can turn around based on just one little piece of info.
It definitely is. It just shows you that mastering the language is just one part of the equation. You also need to have that sensitivity and that flexibility to deal with these unexpected turns that conversations can take.
It's like we're learning this secret language, one that goes way beyond just words and dives into all the little nuances of how people interact with each other.
And the more we understand this language, the better we become at communicating, right?
Yeah.
We can build rapport, we can handle challenges, we can get things done.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the fact that communication, it's so much bigger than just saying the right words. It's about understanding the context, reading between the lines and being able to adapt to the situation as it changes.
It's about being present, being observant, and being responsive like a good dancer, moving in sync with their partner.
Now, that's a beautiful image that really captures what it means to communicate well. But before we wrap up, I have one final thought for our listeners to think about.
I'm all ears.
So we saw how Julianne's conversation took that sudden turn. What if we went back and tried a different approach? What if she had introduced herself in a different way?
That's an interesting question. Maybe instead of saying right away that she's a financial advisor, she could have started by talking about Mrs. McNeely's needs and goals.
Yeah.
Establish some kind of connection before mentioning her profession.
Right. Maybe something like, I'm calling because I've heard great things about your work and I think I might have some resources that could really help your company.
That's smart, by focusing on the value she's bringing to the table. Julianne could have made Ms. McNeely curious and maybe made her more open to talking.
It's like a little shift in perspective, right? Instead of being a sales pitch, it becomes more of a potential partnership.
Exactly. And that's a really useful technique in any communication. Understand what motivates the other person, tailor your approach, and you're much more likely to get a positive response.
This deep dive has been amazing. We haven't just talked about the words and phrases for scheduling appointments, but we've gone deeper into all those layers of communication that can really make or break a conversation.
It's been a fascinating look at the art of persuasion, the power of perception, and how important it is to be adaptable in these ever-changing interactions we have with each other.
So to our listener out there, as you go about scheduling your own appointments, remember this: mastering the language is just the first step. The real magic happens when you understand the context, when you can read those subtle cues, and when you're willing to adapt your approach to create a really engaging and successful interaction.
And who knows, maybe along the way you'll discover some hidden talents for persuasion and diplomacy.
So keep practicing, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep that sense of curiosity alive. Until next time, happy scheduling.
Yeah, that really does make you think about all those little subtle things that go on when we're trying to, communicate well.
It does. It reminds us that even something as basic as scheduling appointments, there's actually a lot of strategy and nuance involved.
I know, right? We always think about learning the right words and phrases, but this deep dive has really shown how important it is to go deeper than that.
Totally. Communication, it's not static, right? It's a process, and you have to be ready to kind of adjust on the fly.
So for our listener out there who's thinking, okay, I'm ready to put all this into practice, what would be your number one tip?
I would say pay attention to the details. Notice how people respond to what you're saying, the tone they use, any kind of subtle changes in the conversation. Those are like little clues to figure out those unspoken rules of communication. It's like you become a communication detective. You're looking around, you're gathering evidence, and you're trying to solve this puzzle of how people interact.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. And remember, even if things don't go perfectly, don't get discouraged. Every interaction is a chance to learn.
That's true. So to sum it all up, I think we can all agree that scheduling appointments in English, or any language for that matter, it's not just about memorizing a few phrases.
No, it's about confidence, clarity, and flexibility. It's about recognizing that communication is a two-way street and being willing to, shift our approach to connect with people on a genuine level.
It's about embracing those moments of uncertainty and realizing that, hey, those are actually opportunities for growth.
And who knows, maybe you'll even discover you have a knack for, persuasion and diplomacy.
So keep practicing, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep that sense of curiosity alive until next time. Happy scheduling.